Hey everyone, ready for another deep dive with us today? I know, I know. AI is everywhere you turn these days. Hard to keep up, right?
It really is.
So let's zero in on one company that's been making headlines, AMD. We're dissecting an episode of the Smart Investor podcast. They're super bullish on AMD, and we're going to see if their optimism is justified.
Well, they kick things off by pointing out just how much negativity surrounds AMD right now.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, some investors are downright doomsday-ish about it.
Like what? What are they saying?
You get some pretty brutal comments like, AMD is going to turn millionaires into billionaires. Ouch.
Oof, that's rough.
But the podcast hosts, they see this pessimism as, well, an opportunity. You know, the classic buy low, sell high, but cranked up a notch.
I feel like I'm hearing that more and more these days. Buy when everyone else is scared.
Right. But it's easier said than done. Gotta have the guts to actually do it.
Absolutely. Speaking of guts, AMD's CEO, Lisa Su, she made some seriously bold claims during their last earnings call.
Oh, yeah, the Q4 one, right?
Uh-huh. They're saying their data center business, which is currently at like a $5 billion run rate,
Yeah.
is going to explode to, get this, tens of billions in just the next few years.
Ambitious, for sure.
That's putting it mildly.
A lot riding on that, that's for sure.
So is this just like blind faith? Or is there something actually driving this projection?
Well, their big bet is on these new chips they're rolling out, the MI350 and the MI400. They're purpose-built for AI, specifically for training and what they call inference.
Inference.
Basically, it's how AI systems actually use the data they're trained on to make decisions, predictions, all that.
Gotcha. So these chips are like the engine behind the AI boom, if you buy into all this.
That's the idea. They're claiming these chips are a total game changer, but...
But are they really? I mean, every new chip is touted as the next big thing. How are these different?
Well, from what I've gathered, the architecture is completely new, designed for crazy fast processing speeds and way better energy efficiency, which, with AI, that's huge.
Okay, so there's actually substance behind the hype. It's not just marketing fluff. So Sue's confidence, maybe it's not just bluster then.
Right. I mean, she basically shrugged off any doubts about their GPU growth in that earnings call. She said strong double-digit growth is a given. Like, case closed.
Wow. So they're really all in on these new chips, especially to grab a bigger piece of the data center market.
Oh, absolutely. That's the battleground, no doubt.
The podcast actually lays out these 3 growth scenarios for AMD,
Yep.
all the way to 2028.
Bull, base, and bear case, right?
Yep, that's them.
And even their bear case, the most pessimistic one, they're still projecting AMD hitting like $63 billion in revenue. Stock price could be anywhere from $221 to $277 a share.
Not too shabby, even if everything goes wrong.
Exactly. Makes you think, what if things go right?
So what are the make or break factors here? What determines which scenario actually plays out?
Well, they keep coming back to this idea of data center dominance. Right now, that's NVIDIA's turf. They're the big dog in AI chips.
So it's like David and Goliath,
Mhm.
with AMD as the underdog.
Kind of, yeah. The success of those MI350 and MI400 chips, especially in data centers, that's going to be a major signal. But they also talk a lot about the overall growth of the AI infrastructure market as a whole.
Right, so even if they don't dethrone NVIDIA, if the entire pie gets bigger, they still win.
Precisely. A rising tide lifts all boats, as they say.
They also mentioned AMD could hit a net income margin of 31% by 2028. Is that, like, good?
Oh, that's healthy, no doubt. But for context, NVIDIA's sitting pretty at over 50% right now.
So there's room for improvement if they want to be top dog.
For sure. Profitability, that's the name of the game. Revenue's great, but you got to turn that into actual profit.
Now, the podcast doesn't just stay laser-focused on AMD. They zoom out to look at the bigger AI picture.
Yeah, they get into this whole Meta versus Google thing.
But, like, who's going to rule the AI world?
Yeah, but they frame it as more of a culture clash. Meta, being founder-led, they see that as more agile, quicker to innovate, compared to Google's, more corporate structure.
It's always fascinating to me how company culture can impact something as complex as AI.
Right. And to back up their point, they highlight Meta's insane $65 billion capital expenditure investment.
It's $65 billion.
That's what they're saying, and they call it building AI highways. Like, laying the groundwork for everything that's coming.
I love that analogy, AI highways. It really gets across the scale of their ambition.
No kidding, they are not messing around.
And they tie this back to AMD by saying, okay, what if Meta's big AI bets pay off? Like with Reels taking off even more, their new Threads platform, that whole smart glasses thing they're pushing.
They actually think that could propel Meta past Google in market cap.
Wow. That would be a seismic shift in the tech landscape.
So we've got AMD making the hardware, Meta building the infrastructure, and this whole AI wave potentially about to crest. What are these podcast guys actually doing with all this information?
Well, the host, he put his money where his mouth is. He went and bought 325 shares of AMD.
He sees the price dip right now as a prime buying opportunity, calls it his fallen knife strategy.
Fallen knife. That sounds kind of dangerous, like trying to catch a falling knife, you might get cut.
Yeah, it's definitely high risk, high reward. He's basically betting the market is undervaluing AMD right now and that the price is going to bounce back big time.
And he claims he's done this before successfully with companies like Meta, Tesla, Amazon. Bought them all when everyone else was running for the hills.
Right, right.
Okay, so before we unpack all this for you, our listeners, and what it might mean for your own thinking about AI and investing, let's dig a little deeper into what the podcast calls AMD's long game.
It's so easy to get caught up in the day-to-day, stock prices bouncing around.
Oh, tell me about it. Refresh, refresh, refresh.
But this podcast, they're really hammering home this idea of the long game. Especially with something like AI, it's a whole different ballgame.
Yeah, like zoom out, look at the bigger picture.
Right. Exactly. Don't sweat today's price. Focus on what this could look like 5, 10 years down the line. Their argument is that AMD, they're playing that long game, and the real payoff, it's still a ways out.
Okay, so patience is key here.
Big time. They even put a date on it, Q2 2024. They call it the starting gun for AMD's AI push.
Interesting. So next year, things could get really interesting if they're right.
Yeah.
But why that date? What's supposed to happen then?
Well, it probably lines up with the full rollout of those MI350 and MO400 chips, remember?
Right, the AI-focused one.
Exactly. But it takes time to get those integrated into data centers, all the big systems that'll actually use them.
So Q2 2024, that's when we might start seeing those chips really moving the needle for AMD. And they see the years 2026 to 2029 as, like, prime time, the real boom years. The podcast host actually says AMD's party is just getting started.
Kitschy. Right.
It is, but it's a bold statement.
For sure. But, if you look back at those growth projections we talked about, even the most conservative ones, there's still a lot of potential upside.
Okay, so let's bring this back to you, our listeners. We've covered a lot of ground here. AMD's AI play, the new chips, battling it out with NVIDIA, even Meta's ambitions in this whole space. What are your initial reactions? Has this conversation shifted your thinking on AMD at all?
One thing that really struck me is this disconnect between, Wall Street's short-term mindset
Oh, yeah.
and the long-term vision AMD seems to be laying out.
Totally. It's like two different worlds. Wall Street's all about what's happening this quarter, next quarter. AMD's talking about a future that's, still being built.
Right. And that raises the question, is the market underestimating AMD's potential? Or is this podcast maybe too optimistic about how fast, how big this whole AI revolution is going to be?
Million-dollar questions, no doubt. And unfortunately, we don't have a crystal ball.
Nope. No easy answers here.
But that's what makes these deep dives so interesting, right? We're not giving you the answers. We're giving you the information to ask the right questions.
Absolutely. Whether you're an investor, just a tech enthusiast, or you're just trying to wrap your head around this crazy world we live in, understanding these forces, these trends, that's crucial.
Couldn't agree more. And this look at AMD, it gives you a glimpse into the possibilities, sure, but also the risks, the uncertainties of this whole AI thing.
Exactly. A lot can change, a lot can happen.
So as we start to wrap things up here, a few things we want you to consider. First, think about your own perspective on AMD, on the whole AI landscape. Has this conversation changed your thinking at all?
Second, we've talked about potential opportunities, potential risks. Does this spark some more research for you? Or do you feel like you need more information to make an informed decision?
And lastly, keep in mind, the AI market, it's still early days. Things are moving fast. What looks like a sure thing today might be disrupted tomorrow. So stay curious, stay informed, and be ready to adapt.
It's interesting. The podcast, they really focus on the hardware side of AI.
Chips, data centers, who's got the fastest system, all that.
Right. But there's this whole other side to it, right? Oh, yeah, absolutely. The software.
The software, the algorithms, the actual stuff that's going to use all this powerful hardware to actually do something useful.
That's what it all comes down to in the end, right?
Totally. We can geek out about how amazing these chips are all day long.
Yeah.
But if the software can't leverage that power, it's meaningless.
It's like the hardware is the foundation of a house, but the software, that's what makes it a home.
Ooh, I like
It
that.
determines how you use the space, how comfortable it is, how much value you get out of it.
Perfect analogy.
Yeah.
And we're already seeing crazy advancements in AI software, right? Natural language processing, computer vision, machine learning, it's all evolving so fast.
It is, and it's already having a real impact. Look at personalized medicines, self-driving cars, even how financial markets work. It's all being transformed by AI.
It really makes you wonder, where are we going to be in 5 years, 10 years? What's next?
That's the exciting part. We're just scratching the surface. This AI revolution, it has the potential to reshape entire industries, economies, even our daily lives. It's hard to even grasp the possibilities.
It's kind of mind-blowing and honestly a little intimidating. It's
Yeah.
like we're stepping into the unknown. No one can say for sure what the future holds.
That's true, but that's also what makes it so fascinating. We have this chance to shape the future of AI, to guide its development so it benefits everyone.
All right, so as we wrap up this deep dive, what's a key takeaway for our listeners?
I think it comes down to this. AI is not just about technology, it's about us. It's about how we choose to use this incredibly powerful tool to solve problems, to create value, to build a better future.
Couldn't have said it better myself. So whether you're an investor, an entrepreneur, a tech enthusiast, or just someone trying to keep up with the world, the AI revolution, it's not something you can ignore.
Stay curious, stay informed, stay engaged. The future of AI, it's in our hands.
And on that note, we'll wrap up this deep dive. Hope you enjoyed exploring the world of AI with us. Until next time, keep diving deep, and we'll catch you on the flip side.